Yo, welcome everyone. It's Brian here with DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and I know that a very popular type of video out there is when game collectors share what's in their game collection. Now in the past, Jim has already done this twice, but to be honest, he has a much larger collection than I do, and while I may have some interesting games, I still have a fairly modest collection. So, I decided to share the games that are most important to me, and that is, of course, my horror titles. Now, at the time of filming this, I've actually already started adding titles to my collection, and that will be updated on a monthly basis. Now, today's video is only going to feature my physical collection. I may make another video in the future covering my digital titles, and maybe even my horror board games, because I have way too many of those. But either way, let me shut up, let's just get into the video. Alright, so let's get started, and I'm going to go with the NES because this is the earliest system I have anything in a collection for, so it just feels like the natural starting point. Now, right off the bat, I start with Simon's Quest 2, and for some reason, don't ask me why, I have two copies. I might have gotten one from Goodwill, I don't know, for whatever reason I have two of these. And I gotta say, the game is underrated because the soundtrack and the way it looks is still amazing. It has many faults that were pointed out by the nerd. Still, pretty solid game. Next, oh god, Ghosts and Goblins. Now, I don't know what to say about this game that hasn't already been said. I hate the trick ending. It's difficult as shit. And the music actually can get quite annoying. Still, it's kind of a must-have if you are into horror games or just terribly difficult games to begin with. Next up, we have Werewolf: The Last Warrior. Now, this for sure was actually picked up from a random used game store. And, of course, I saw Werewolf in the title. I had to jump all over it. I've played it a few times. It's okay. It didn't grab me right away. It is kind of difficult. And it's one of those games you don't really hear a ton of people talking about. And the final game of my NES collection actually is Monster Party. Now, this is definitely, I don't even know if repro is the right word. It's a custom case I got. I got this off eBay. It came in what looks like more of a Sega Genesis case. But I have the manual, I have the game. Game and manual are legit. It's just that case is a little questionable. And this is extremely rare because I hear no one talking about it. Really fun, really weird game with like people's asses up in the air. I don't even know what's going on once you go into the nightmare world. I just know it's a really fun game. Still haven't beaten it yet, but I definitely already sunk a few hours into it. So it's one that I would highly recommend if you've never tried before. Alright, next we have the Sega Genesis, and it's another system I don't have many games for, but I'm going to start with my favorite of the horror games for the Genesis, and that's of course The Haunting starring Poltergeist. Now this game is fairly well known, but when I was a kid, me and my brother loved the hell out of it. I mean, just the amount of random things you could possess to try and scare families. It was such a novel idea for a game, and honestly, it's not one that I've seen copied even to this day. So, really unique title, definitely recommend it. Next, we have Bram Stoker's Dracula, which this game actually I got complete in box. Have a nice little manual here from a Goodwill. Really dirt cheap, and it's one of those games where I don't hate the game, it's just not that well done. It's a very mid-level, I would call it like a Castlevania ripoff. Graphics are actually pretty solid and the sound's pretty good. The game just doesn't offer anything that special. It was ported to pretty much everything, including the NES. But yeah, whenever I see horror games, especially complete in box, I gotta go for them. Alright, the next one could be questionable. Is it horror? But I had to throw it up here. I have Altered Beast. Now here's the deal. I know most people are going to say, hey, that is not a horror game, and I would agree, but then again, you do turn into a werewolf and there are monsters. I'm stretching it, I get it, but also I've noticed every time you look up the term horror Sega Genesis game, Altered Beast comes up a lot, and just look at that cover. I mean, if you've never played Altered Beast, then you probably don't like Genesis games, but still, I enjoy it. Alright, and the final game in my Genesis is Jurassic Park. This is another one. Maybe you're going to say, hey, that's not a horror game, but just from that opening credit screen with the T-Rex saying Sega and just the graphics, it's debatably a horror game. I would put that movie as a horror movie with some of those scenes in there. Either way, it's another obscure game that when am I going to talk about? And another beautiful, I got it at Goodwill, complete in box. So, hey, I got lucky with Goodwill with these Genesis games. Haven't seen anything since, but that's neither here nor there. Alright, now it's time to talk about a system that it breaks my heart to mention because I had a lot of great games for growing up, and unfortunately I sold them through my teenage years. I'm talking about the Super NES. I don't have any actual physical carts of games, but since it is technically physical, I am going to count the Classic Edition, which does have 4 very obvious titles. So you have Super Castlevania 4, which is, I think it's probably my favorite Castlevania game. It looks the best, the sound is awesome, and even has throwbacks to the NES titles. There's not enough good I can say about that game, and I put the link below for our review because it's just amazing. Next is Super Metroid. Now this is another game I have to applaud because it is my favorite in the entire Metroid series. From the graphics, the sound, just everything about that game is really amazing to look at even today. And if there's anyone out there who doesn't like Metroidvania style games, I'd point them to this one because although it is confusing, I feel like it is manageable. Next I have Super Ghouls and Ghosts, which unfortunately because of Ghosts and Goblins, I never really had a knack to want to play. I've tried the game a few times, but I've never beaten it. Maybe one day I'll go and give it another try. And finally, we have Contra 3: The Alien Wars. Is it a horror game? Is it sci-fi? I don't really know. Either way, I absolutely love it. It's my favorite run and gun game, and yeah, if it's one you've never played, you gotta try it out. Alright, so next up we have PC horror games, and interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure every game I have for the PC is either like random discs from my childhood or completely found at Goodwills. Start off with Doom 3. The sticker on there, somebody paid 20 bucks, I only paid 3 for it. I mean, this game, it kind of reinvented Doom the same way a lot of Resident Evils kept reinventing themselves. Still holds up, scary, fun-ass game, and really underrated, I feel like, nowadays. Next, we have BioShock, which we just did a review of that, so you can click the link below. But Jim was impressed by how much he liked this game. Now, I never actually played it on a PC, but once again, got it for $4 at Goodwill, complete in box. Artwork looks good. I always thought maybe I'll do a giveaway or something, but what the hell, I have it. If you haven't played this game, you really need to. Awesome shooter with a lot of interesting powers, and the setting is just really cool. Alright, and next, the classic, the original Diablo. I'll be honest, as a kid I played this, I was not very good at it, I never got that far, and it never hooked me enough. I know Diablo 2 and 3, amazing games, but yeah, this is the one that started it all. I always loved the cover as a kid, just once again, it just never really hooked me for whatever reason. Alright, next we have Blood Omen 2. Now this game, I love the Legacy of Kain series and all of them, and this was the first game I can recall where I played as a vampire. It's really, really well done, and I did play it on consoles, not on the PC, but once again, when I'm asked for $1 for this at Goodwill, I'm never going to say no. Alright, next, House of the Dead 2. I don't need to say much about this. Of course, this game is played the best, in my opinion, on the Dreamcast with a gun, or obviously the arcade, but this is a solid step up. I mean, using a mouse is kind of easy. So, House of the Dead, you really can't go wrong with any of them, in my opinion, but this is probably my favorite from the series. Just really fun arcade shooter, and it ported pretty well to the PC. Alright, the next 2 games, I don't know really what to say about, but the first is from 1993 called The Magic Death. It's an FMV game where you're trying to solve a murder. Kind of think like that game Her Story, but it's terrible. As a kid, I lost interest immediately. Definitely never beat it, but it only takes like 10 minutes if you know what you're doing. So maybe that'll be a fun random like Let's Play or something in the future. But the next one comes to us from Soft Key Horror. It's their CD-ROM Power Pack. It includes the game Blade Warriors, Isle of the Dead, and Frankenstein. I have no idea what this is. 3 random horror games, but apparently my parents must have got it for us back in the day. They were released in 94 and 95. So yeah, I did find each of these games, but I'll be honest, there's actually more Frankensteins and Blade Warriors than I knew of. So I think I'm showing the right games. Either way, it's just another random thing I have in my collection I didn't even realize before making this video.